Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about Jupiter, because wherever Jupiter is in your chart is going to represent some type of opportunity, regardless whether Jupiter is friendly to your chart or not. Jupiter is about expansion, and even though, according to Vedic astrology, some ascendant signs may not produce a powerful, strong Jupiter, but it's always about expansion and, more than anything, an opportunity. Okay, so before I progress on, I always have to remind everyone to sign up for my free newsletter. Go to my website, galacticcenter.org, and you will receive all of my predictions delivered to your email address weekly. So check that out. And if you decide you want to learn astrology, Vedic astrology, I have the most amazing online school called University of Vedic Astrology.com. And we're starting a new semester 1 where I do the live webinars with you July 6th. So don't miss this opportunity. Go to University of Vedic Astrology.com. Now, let me talk a little bit about where your Jupiter is in your chart. So if you don't know where Jupiter is in your chart, I have a free calculator, chart calculator on my website. You can go to galacticcenter.org, put in all your information, your time, place, everything of birth, and remember to scroll down to the very bottom and look at where the ascendant is. The ascendant is always the first house. And then you will see where Jupiter is in accordance to what house it's going to be in. And remember, I'm talking about the sidereal Vedic astrology chart, not the tropical Western. So let's talk about if you have Jupiter, and this is even disregarding, it's going to make a difference what sign it's in as well. But let's just say you have Jupiter in the first house, regardless. Jupiter all by itself, no matter what your ascendant sign is, will bring you an opportunity. And it's been said that Jupiter in the first house means you are protected, that you have protection from the angels. Remember that Jupiter is what the Vedic Sanskrit word for Jupiter is guru. So it is spirituality, it is teachings, it's angelic protection. It's a benefic, a natural benefic planet. And when it sits in your first house, you will be blessed, you will have opportunities, you will always pretty much land on your feet because you have protection from the great teachers. And the other thing is, well, you know, Jupiter's big. Sometimes people with Jupiter in the first house, not always, it depends on the sign, but many times they can be big, or they have problems with weight gain or things like that. But I have seen many people that are quite the opposite with Jupiter in the first house. So you can't always say, well, they're going to be big. But even if they're not physically big, they are big in some way. Jupiter is expansive. So the individual will be expansive, and Jupiter is about, well, Jupiter is relative to the 9th sign, Sagittarius, because Jupiter rules Sagittarius. It also rules Pisces in the Vedic system. So these signs are very spiritual. So you have Jupiter in the first house, someone will be very prone to be directed to their spirituality. And of course, truthful. They will be very truthful, and they have to always be in alignment with virtue and being correct and always righteous. So that is Jupiter in the first house. You are protected. So let's say you have Jupiter in the second house. I mean, everybody gets excited when they see Jupiter in the second house. Why? Because it deals with money and finances. It means for the most part, most people that have Jupiter in the second house, they can be financially set in their life. Jupiter's abundance and wealth and expansion. Everyone wants a little more money, and in the second house, it will deal with that. And many times the second house deals with our sense of who we are, our self-esteem. And that is essentially how it gives us the power to create our money. If we are powerful and feel good about ourselves, then guess what? We can do well financially. So Jupiter in the second house can also mean someone that speaks well or speaks a lot. Jupiter is expansive. Now Jupiter also, so in the second house you could have a very nice childhood experience. Of course this depends on what other planets are there, but all by itself Jupiter in the second will give you the ability to earn, and you will be very, very expressive, I believe, with language and words. And you're lucky. Remember, Jupiter is the planet of luck, so financially lucky. Let's talk about if you have Jupiter in the third house. Jupiter in the third house means you love to travel. You will travel extensively throughout your life. Short distance, long distance, but you also have a love of learning and everything to do with the written word, and communications. You are a master at. And don't forget, the third house is ambition and drive. So you're very motivated to manifest things, create things. This is a powerful house. But traveling and learning, communications are your gift. That's what I'll say is your opportune placement with Jupiter being in your third house. Let's say that Jupiter's in your fourth house. Generally, it's going to mean that you're going to live in a large house. There's a lot of space around you, maybe land or property, but the house is generally large. Or you could find that your mother can be over the top, an extremist in some way, because Jupiter is big. Jupiter expands. Not always is it the greatest, because it can be over the top, too much energy being there in the fourth house. But real estate and property should be your thing. You should look into always purchasing your home, because you will do well. That's where your luck comes from. Your home, your past, your environment, but especially real estate and property. Let's say you have Jupiter in the fifth house. The fifth house, by and large, is the house of creativity. When you put Jupiter in the fifth, you have expansive, good, creative ideas. And in Vedic astrology, sometimes they say that Jupiter, the Karaka, meaning indicator for children, being in the fifth house, is not necessarily conducive to having children. But I've seen that to be proved wrong many times, so don't go verbatim about that ruling, Jupiter in the fifth, no children. I've seen it work, but not always. But it means that you're highly creative and very intelligent, and that is your gift. You could be an entrepreneur to build things, to create things. Not necessarily does creativity mean you have to be artistic. It can mean creating and building things like being an entrepreneur. But you have incredible ideas and a high degree of intelligence. That is your gift. So let's say you have Jupiter in the sixth house. And with that, this is the house of work and service and the people that you work with day in to day out. You have nice people that help support you in the working field. Plus, you're always cooperative when it comes to your work, and it's a pleasant experience. But the sixth house is generally our health, and Jupiter there can be that, well, depending on the sign, sometimes it can be an extreme with health. Can also indicate some health issues of over expansion, overdoing of something. But in the sixth house, you will be focused in, for sure, one of your gifts concerning learning about your health and diet and nutrition. That's important to you, with Jupiter being in your sixth house. Plus, you probably have a love of animals. You could have some really good pets. So let's say Jupiter's in your 7th house. This can mean that your partner can be your gift to you. They're very expansive. They think outside the box. They think big. And they bring you along for the ride. Expansion and greatness. But it can also mean, if it's too much, too many partners. But usually it represents a very honest, real, good partner. Depending on if there's other planets there, of course, will change this energy. But purely, Jupiter in the 7th house means you could be blessed through a partner or some kind of partnerships, maybe business, but this is where your blessing comes from. Let's say you have Jupiter in the 8th house. Generally, most people with Jupiter in the 8th house do come into money through other people, whether it's inheritances or through a partner. Large sums of money, generally. And Jupiter in the 8th house can give you incredible intuition and psychic ability and the need to really, really investigate and research things to the core and the essence and to the truth. That is your gift. Let's say you have Jupiter in the 9th house. You love spirituality, truth. You may even want to go into a field of the legal profession. But generally, it's going to be a career where it's more spiritual. So in other words, not the man-made laws that we're thinking about with the legal profession, but the spiritual laws. So your gift is your truth and your feeling about spirituality and your father. He could be off the charts, exaggerated, bigger than life, but I feel like you would probably have a good relationship with your father, depending if that is the only planet in your 9th house. It's a gift. So let's say you have Jupiter in the 10th house. What is your gift? Your career, your profession. Feeling a sense of purpose in your life. That's your gift, and you will have it with Jupiter being in your 10th house. You're always lucky when it comes to work and career. It's given to you somehow, some way, with Jupiter being in the 10th house, and you feel a sense of your purpose, and people look up to you. Remember, the 10th house is your social standing, your reputation. So that's a gift. Let's say you have Jupiter in the 11th house. This could mean that you have a lot of friends and people that you know, your connections, your friends are powerful people, very influential people you will know, and it will bring you gains in this lifetime. It's a very auspicious, good place for Jupiter to be in terms of wealth and gains, and to have significantly important people in your life that will help you. And many friends. That's a great position. Jupiter in the 11th house, you could have an older sibling that you look up to, or maybe it simply means you are the oldest one. Let's say you have Jupiter in the 12th house. Jupiter in the 12th house would be deeply spiritual, always thinking deeply into prayer, spirituality, and deeply searching for the truth beyond this world. That's very spiritual. And Jupiter in the 12th house can mean you can be very connected to foreign places, foreign people, but I have to say you're deeply spiritual and you're deeply psychic, and yes, your dreams will be very profoundly prophetic, where you will get answers when you sleep. Meditation can be a gift to you. You know how to pretty much exit the world when you need to and heal. Because of Jupiter being in the 12th house, you could be a healer as well. So Jupiter in the 6th house as well could be someone who is a healer. That is something that is with both the 6th, but also definitely the 12th, a healer. That is your gift. To heal the past, to be spiritual, and help other people. So with that, I hope you've gained some insights of the power of Jupiter, how Jupiter is expansive, and how Jupiter gives an opportunity in whatever house it's in your chart. So with that, I'd like to close. If you would like more information on me or a reading, you can always go to my website, galacticcenter.org. Do not forget to sign up for my free newsletter. And remember, if you want to learn Vedic astrology, I have the answer. Go to my university website, universityofvedicastrology.com. Thank you.